I'm back with another goofy ghost story. It's from Japan as well. Well, it's not my fault. Japan has got so many goofy ghost stories to talk about. Those guys love the paranormal. So, let's get started with this one. It's called A Ghost Taxi. Where, hear me out, the victim is not the passenger, but the driver. Yeah, you heard it right. Japanese have started to run the taxis again. In Japan, taxi drivers have been reporting ghost passengers coming these days who climb on board and ask to be taken to a destination, then mysteriously vanish. Before they even pay the freaking bill, the driver, he gets no money back for taking them ghosts to their destination. And with the skyrocketing prices of gas these days, ghosts have been unfair towards the taxi drivers. Some say that they struggle to find their way back to their home, or they may not even know that they are dead. They just get in the taxi and ask the taxi driver like a normal thing, until when they realize that they are a ghost and they can just disappear.
Hey yeah!
So let's start with a so-called true story which happened with a cab driver in Japan. The cab driver knew that the ghosts in Japan were not confined to ancient graveyards and shadow-haunted shrines. Taxis in Tokyo are more haunted than any of the haunted house you'll ever see in any Conjuring movie. And the taxi driver's daily route used to take him through a lot of scary houses, but he was never scared because he was in a taxi himself. He didn't believe in no ghost. But one day, there was this Sundagaya tunnel, which runs beneath the cemetery of this temple called Senjun Temple, or Shirogane Tunnel, where the legend has it that a screaming face appears on the tunnel inside of it, through which some old Japanese people believe that the spirit of death is said to pass. But one day, he got a story to tell himself. It was a stormy autumn night near one cemetery where he picked up a poor girl. It was a young girl who was all drenched by the rain. It was dark. It was so dark that he could not get a good look over the face of the girl. But the girl, she seemed sad, and he figured out that she must have visited some deceived friend of hers, so that's the reason she's sad. It was like I said, it was near the cemetery. The address she gave, that was a few distance away, and they drove in silence. Utter silence. You know it's a good cab driver when he does not make any small talk when picking someone up from a cemetery. When they reached their final destination, the scene was no other than the movie itself, the final destination. The girl whispered to the cab driver to wait for a moment, while she stared outside the window at a second floor apartment. 10 minutes passed by. She was still staring, never speaking, never crying, never expressing any emotion, simply observing a solitary figure. Suddenly, the girl, she asked to be taken to a new address. This one, it was back near the cemetery where the cab driver picked her up. The rain became heavier. The driver was focused on the road to avoid any damage to his car or any accidents, leaving the girl to her own thoughts. When he arrived at the new destination, he found a modern house in a good established neighborhood. The cabbie opened the door and turned around to collect his fare. To his surprise, he found himself alone sitting in the cab. There was nobody in the back seat. There was nobody at the place where the girl had been sitting moments before. Mouth open, he just sat there staring at the vacant seat until he heard something. A knocking on the window shocked him. It was the father of the house. Seeing the taxi outside, had calmly walked outside, bringing with him the exact change for the fare. And Gabby was surprised, like, how does this man know about this stuff? Until the father explained that the young girl was his daughter, who died in a traffic accident some years ago and was buried in the same cemetery the cab driver picked the girl from. From time to time, he said, she hails a cab and after visiting her old boyfriend's apartment, asks to be driven back home. The father thanked the driver for his troubles and sent him on his way. Anyways, after I found this story online, I want to be a cab driver in Japan just so that I can experience this horror story by myself. If this video gets 10 million likes, then I'm gonna pick up a taxi driver in Japan for a night and see if I can pick any ghost girl. And I really want this to happen.